Should you invest in Lego during an economic recession? In this video, we're going to talk about how the economy affects Lego investing. You ready? Let's go. All right, before we go any further, I need you to know that I am not an economist. I do not know that much about the economy. I study it on a small scale, but not a grand scale. So I'm not a professional when it comes to talking about the economy, but I have been investing in Lego over the last 8 years, and I have a little bit of an experience, and I've done a lot of research about what happened back in the previous economic crash of 2008. So the general consensus from what I've understood is that we are in some sort of small economic recession. It doesn't mean that we're headed towards an economic crash or any sort of economic crisis, although that could be a possibility. We are in a small economic downturn. Again, if you are an economist or you study this on a regular basis, please let us know in the comments below all of your insights. I'm probably going to say something that's wrong at some point in this video, and I would love to be corrected so that we know exactly what's happening in the economy here in the US and worldwide. But that's not necessarily why you're here. You're more interested in, should I start Lego investing or should I continue Lego investing if we find ourselves in an economic recession? Let's start by understanding what happens during an economic recession or a larger economic crisis. Typically during an economic recession, families and individuals do not have as much money to spend on luxuries. Luxuries would be defined as anything outside of your basic needs to live. As much as I love Lego, it is probably not a basic need for me to survive. It is something that I can live without. Although I build on a regular basis, it's very therapeutic for me and I love it. It's not a basic need. It would be considered a luxury. So because Lego is considered a luxury, we can assume that during a continual economic recession or an economic crisis, Lego products will be purchased less. That's a broad stroke statement. Obviously, Lego as a company survived the last economic crisis of 2007 and 2008. So it doesn't mean people are going to abandon purchasing Lego sets entirely, but it does mean that they may spend less in dollar amount and probably buy less sets as a whole. So what does that mean for Lego investing? That's a great question, and I would love to use a real-world example on how I feel like the economic recession could affect Lego investing. Let's take this set for example. This is the 71040 Disney Castle. This set was released back in 2016, if I remember correctly, and it just retired here at the end of 2022. The MSRP on this set was $350, and if you're looking at the recently sold eBay listings, we are seeing that it is trending at anywhere from $500 to $550 on the secondary market. I'll be honest, overall I'm surprised at how well that set has appreciated just 3 months post-retirement. It's already returned $150 to $200 over the MSRP, and it looks like that trend will continue. My hope, barring any sort of economic crisis, that set by this Christmas could get up to $600 in value, and then I would anticipate it to increase at a $50 to $75 value year over year for the next 3 to 4 years. So that means in around 2026, the Disney Castle would likely be worth anywhere from $800 to $850. But in this video, we're talking about what happens if there's a continual economic recession or even an economic crisis. So let's say the economic recession of 2023 continues, we head towards more of an economic crisis, unemployment is on the rise. Those that have invested in Lego or have Lego as part of their personal collection will typically sell those investments or those luxuries to make sure they can get themselves as an individual or their families back to economic stability. So let's say we head towards an economic crisis. I end up losing my job. I would liquidate my Lego investments and my Lego collection as quickly as possibly could. The stability of my family and the economic security is way more valuable to me than any Lego set that I own. So if I start liquidating my collection and I put, let's take the Disney Castle for example, if I list the 4 that I have currently in my inventory on eBay or some sort of secondary market, if the market is flooded with Disney castles and people that are selling off their luxuries, if we head towards an economic crisis and people are spending less money on luxuries, I could anticipate the Disney Castle dropping to around $450 or even backwards to $400 in value. So we would see that set no longer appreciate, but actually take a dip in its investment potential. And typically during an economic recession, people are not buying luxuries or commodities for investing. So the people that'll be buying the set would likely be collectors or families that are still financially stable despite the economic crisis they find themselves in. If that becomes the case, typically people that are buying new sets like the Disney Castle open them up, they build them, and they add them to their personal collection. For example, let's say we had a longer-term economic recession or an economic crisis over the next 12 months. People begin to list and sell off the majority of their Disney castles. The price drops because people are spending less money on luxuries, so the supply is up, the demand is lower, and slowly over the next 12 to 18 months, the inventory that is on eBay and Facebook and Amazon starts to dry up. Then we find ourselves recovering from said economic recession or economic crisis, and people get back into Lego collecting and Lego investing. Then they find themselves interested in buying a Disney castle. At this point, because much of the inventory that was in the hands of collectors and investors found itself on the secondary market, was purchased slowly during the economic recession, we have way less supply on the secondary market. And the demand, again, this is after we have recovered from an economic crisis, begins to increase again. And because the demand begins to increase and the supply is much lower than it once was, the Disney Castle, I think, has the potential to be worth anywhere from $900 to $1,200 on the secondary market. Now, we are playing out a hypothetical scenario. Again, I'm not an economist, so I don't know what's coming in the next 12 to 18 months. But if we did hit a severe economic recession, I would imagine all of those factors would ultimately play out. People spending less money on luxuries and people listing Lego investments and Lego collections on the secondary market for people to purchase, sometimes taking a loss or very, very minimal profits just to make sure they can pursue personal financial stability. So why don't we look at history and talk about a few sets from the previous economic crisis we experienced here in the US and globally and how that affected Lego investing. Let's rewind back to 2007. So back in 2007, we had unemployment on the rise, the housing crisis, and the economy was at its worst state it's been in the entirety of my life in the 32 years that I've been alive. There were many individuals and families that were close to mine. It was challenging for my family personally to navigate that financial crisis. And during that time, my family and many others wouldn't have even dreamt about purchasing luxuries like Lego sets. Again, I'm not sure that's where we're headed, but I think it's important to look at the history, or at least the most recent history, of an economic recession or economic crisis to see how that affected Lego investing. Let's look at 4 Lego sets from 2007. The first is the 10181 Eiffel Tower. Of course, if you know Lego at all, you know they just re-released the Eiffel Tower in a much larger scale. But this set, which was originally valued at $200 before the re-release, okay? So re-releases almost always devalue an original product or a smaller version of that product. But before they re-released the Eiffel Tower had gotten up to about $3,000 in value. And this was a set that was released in 2007. Same story for the very famous Cafe Corner. The Cafe Corner has a lot of things going for it. It was a modular building. Original price was $140. Now valued anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000, brand new and sealed on the secondary market. But let's look at some smaller examples, like the 7662 Star Wars Trade Federation ship. The MSRP was $100 on that set, and it's currently worth about $750. And even non-licensed sets like the Lego Castle series, the 7093 Skeleton Tower, the original MSRP on that set was $50, and it's now worth around $350. So that's not the story for all the sets in 2007, but almost every single set from the year 2007 has appreciated anywhere from 300 to 400% or more in value. Those are some examples from 2007. Here's a few from 2008. The 10189 Taj Mahal. I actually have this set behind me. That set was actually re-released in 2016 or 17. Someone's going to have to check my math on that. But they re-released it like as an exact, like from the vault, spitting image shot-for-shot remake. Now, before they had done that, the Taj Mahal had gotten up to $5,000 to $6,000 in value if you still had it brand new and unopened. And the MSRP on that set was $300. The 10187 dark blue Volkswagen Beetle, originally valued at $120, is currently worth anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200 new and sealed. The 7672 Rogue Shadow from Star Wars, $50 set, worth about $350. And the 7888 Joker Tumbler Surprise from the Batman line, originally $50, worth around $500. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking a couple things. If you know anything about Lego investing, you're thinking a few things. One, yes, those are 15-year holds. If you bought a set in 2008 and you held on to it for 15 years, you would hope to return at least 300 and 400% return on investment. So during 2007 to 2008, people were not buying Lego sets in droves. And if they weren't buying sets for their personal collection, and many people weren't buying Lego sets for investing, that meant the supply was extremely low. Over the last several years, we've had some pretty healthy economic times, and those interested in collecting sets from way back then have been paying an absolute premium to get their hands on sets that are really, really hard to find, brand new and unopened. And yes, here in the year 2023, Lego investing is significantly more popular than it has been historically. So, understanding that, obviously, there's way more supply nowadays when it comes to Lego investing than there ever has been historically. I can understand that. Do I still think Lego investing is a viable option to fund your building hobby? Of course I do. I still do it. And it's way more popular than it has been. But I think there is a little bit of writing on the wall that we are in or headed towards a more severe economic recession. And if that does become the case, should you invest in Lego today? My answer is yes, with one major caveat. I will tell no one, absolutely no one, to invest in Lego at the sacrifice of their personal or their family's financial stability. Like I said earlier, if I lose my job at any point in the next year or 2 years and I'm unable to find another job, I will liquidate my collection as fast as I can to make sure I'm keeping a roof over my family's head and food on the table. But if I am blessed enough to be able to stay employed and I have extra income to invest in Lego sets, I will go pretty hard on Lego investing if we find ourselves during an economic recession. The reason being, I think more people will probably get out of the Lego investing experience to make sure they're pursuing financial stability. There will be less people purchasing luxuries, so it will be less common that people were buying Lego sets. So Lego investing during the short term will actually take a dip, which I mentioned earlier. So if you've invested in Lego back in 2022 and we have an economic recession 2023 into 2024, it'll be really difficult for you to sell your Lego investments for profit. But if you do have the opportunity to invest in Lego sets now, then you have the potential to have extremely great returns, as the market competition will be way less than it would be during a healthy financial season. So you're asking yourself, if we head towards a long-term economic recession or economic crisis, which sets specifically should I be investing in over the next 8 months? Well, that's a great question, and I have not yet released my top 10 Lego sets for investing in 2023. I plan to release that video coming up here in April. I want to make sure that I check on some of my sources so that my intel is valuable and I can give you a clear list on sets that I think would be great for investing here in the next couple years. So stay tuned. Make sure you like and subscribe to stay up to date on my upcoming top 10 list for Lego investing. If you're interested, you can check out my top 10 in 2022. I talked about that last April, and I plan to re-release a video similar for 2023 up here coming up in the next couple weeks. So we're ultimately left with a couple questions. Where is the economy headed? I don't know. Nobody really knows. No one has a crystal ball. We never know where the economy is fully headed. If we did, I would have invested in Bitcoin a long time ago. But because we don't, that leaves us with some question marks. And really, I can't answer those questions for you, but I can tell you, if we find that we head towards a more long-term economic recession, that Lego investing, not in the short term, hear me, not in the short term. If you're hoping for a quick flip on a Lego set during an economic recession or economic crisis, that's not going to be a wise choice. If you're able to invest in for a long-term hold into sets that are valued anywhere from $50 to $200, you could potentially have incredible returns on investment. I'm hoping that I can make a video here in the year 2026. We can look at the value of a 71040 Disney castle, and we could say, hey, where did the economy go over the next 2 years? And what happened? And did we see a dip? And did we see a spike? I'm not sure. I would love to be that smart that I could just give you future insight, and then everybody in the world would be investing in Lego. But my hope is that I was able to give you an insight to what could happen, what happened back in 2007 and 2008. And where Lego investing could be going if we head towards a more consistent economic recession. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are interested in more Lego investing, Lego buying, reselling, and collecting content, make sure you give me a subscribe. I love to engage with you in the comments below. And I love helping other Lego collectors like myself fund their Lego building hobby through Lego investing. As always, y'all, it's Jake from Jake's Bricks, signing off. We'll see you guys.